So, what will be your punch card? Okay. What the hell is a punch card? Well, in the mainframe computing era in the 1960s to mid 1980s, well before most of you were born, software programmers had to write their code using punch cards that were fed into the computer. This forced software developers to be extremely careful and concise with the code they wrote. So, why is that relevant? Well, you might know this guy. He needs no introduction. His name is Warren Buffett. He says you should compare life to a punch card. He spent his life investing, and his life is about making investment decisions. But he says, you don't understand. I don't make a lot of investment decisions. My life is like a punch card. I have 20 holes to punch. And he leverages this analogy. He says, you won't get 500 or 1,000 great opportunities in life. Imagine you got a punch card with 20 punches on it. For every major decision, you need a punch. That means if you do that, you'll be very successful because you would think very hard before making an investment or life decision. And I kind of subscribe to this in a really big way. So what does my punch card look like? Well, my commitment from the age of 7 to read for 2 hours a day, thanks, Mom, has likely been the biggest punch I ever made. Through reading, I've lived thousands of lives vicariously, and I've experienced much more than I ever could have without this commitment. I've spent over 37,000 hours reading approximately 10,000 books. And if you put that into years, that's almost 4.5 years of my life specifically engaged in the act of reading. None of these were textbooks or books I was supposed to read or someone told me to read. These were all books I read to fed my inexhaustible curiosity. Okay, reading is my meditation practice, it's my core learning methodology, and it's the absolute foundation of my life. Reading begets more reading and has unlocked endless possibilities in my life. I really can't overemphasize the positive impact it's had on my life. So if you don't read regularly, I'm not talking about YouTube, I'm not talking about blogs, I'm not talking about Twitter, I'm talking about reading. If you don't read regularly, I say, please start tomorrow. I beg you. You don't need to be as prolific a reader as me to gain huge benefits. You'll thank me for it if you do. So with that foundation, the next 3 punches in my life focused around my fascination with personal computers. And I was very lucky. I was the first generation of kids that actually had access to personal computers. Okay. And my realization at a very young age that software, not hardware, was going to be the key to the future led to my joining Microsoft. And it also led to me leaving my home country to build my career in what was at the time the fastest growing economic miracle of the world, which was Japan. And that was my 20s. And a lot of you here today are in your 20s and 30s. And that's why I'm doing this kind of a presentation tonight, because I want you to think about the punches you do. So from there on, I went into my 30s. And I parlayed these early punches into an incredible career and financial success. And it was during this decade, the decade of my 30s, I did the next 6 punches. And I leveraged what I learned in my 20s to solve key business issues for larger and larger companies. And I built a team of highly capable people around me, including Henry, but many more as well. And we worked together in multiple companies. And having reached my goal of becoming a CEO of a NASDAQ listed software company, I realized that I really wanted to start my own company and not be a CEO for hire. And thus, I spent the early part of my 40s doing the next 3 punches, which is becoming an entrepreneur. And I did that with Henry, and we've had wonderful highs and amazing, crazy lows, and we've lived through it together. And there's been many other people that I've brought along on the journey. I've worked with people like Terry and Flo, Luke, and others in previous companies, many companies. I've worked with some of you like Vivian and SK for a decade, people like Nina for a long time. So you got to bring the people with you that you want to be with, you want to work with, and you can grow with. So you still have your punches ahead of you guys. So I'm going to give you some advice. Okay. So be thoughtful regarding your goals and write them down, because there's serious studies that show that if you don't write your goals down, you won't achieve them. The odds are really low. But if you do write them down, you might actually do so. And the chances are quite high that you will. Be relentlessly curious. Maintain a ceaseless desire to learn and improve. And it's very important to actively create the right environment. Okay, this is what I'm talking about now with Yoda 1. Create and be a part of the right environment for success. Regarding your environment, you need to think about the who, the where, and the when, because out of the 5 W's and the 1 H, the who, the where, and the when are the most important. So let's drill down on that a little bit. So the who, where, and the when. Be aware of who you work with, who you want to work with, who your mentors are or should be, and what environment allows you the best chance for success. So you can imagine if I'm going to go out and start my own company, I definitely want to work with people I can learn from, that I like working with, and in a company with the kind of rules and mantras and a philosophy and goals that jive with what I want to do. And that's what you should be thinking about. You should work here because you absolutely love and want to work here. And who you choose to work with is, and we've mentioned this earlier today in the presentations, is the most powerful force multiplier. Who you work with is the most powerful force multiplier for your career, for your life. Okay. So then where? So what environment? Okay. Company environment, country, location, and even what industry then decides the size of your springboard, how high you can jump is based on the where you locate yourself. I was lucky to be born in America at the time that I was born there and pursued the opportunities I did. And then when you do certain things is really important. All right. So maximize your experiments and your learnings in your 20s. Then hone your execution in your 30s. Become known for doing something. You saw some examples of people who won Oscars today. They're becoming known for something. They're becoming good at something. And then build upon your knowledge with lateral experiments and expand your horizons in your 40s. Okay. So, and this is a very recent quote from Bill Gates, who was a former boss of mine and someone I respect. And he said, in my lifetime, I've seen 2 demonstrations of technology that struck me as revolutionary. Only 2. The GUI, the graphical user interface, which made computing available to the masses, and ChatGPT, which made the power of AI accessible to the masses. Because before ChatGPT, only people like Eliar could figure out what the hell AI was and what it could do for you. So he didn't say the internet. He didn't say the mobile phone explosion and revolution. He said the ability to use computers for everyone and the ability to access AI. So I'm pretty certain that my next 5 punches are going to be involved with this future. And I'm lucky that I can be in a time where I get to see 2 of these waves, not just one. So very next hole on my punch list is the Yoda 1 IPO. And we are so close, folks. All we need is continued growth. And most importantly, we need profitability, sustainable profitability. And we're so close to that as well, as you heard from the pictures tonight. If we do that, we will be able to go public at the time of our choosing. And achieving an IPO is an incredible milestone for a company and the employees of that company to be able to say you were there, when that happened, to be a part of it. First of all, it earns you a place in the history books and it gives you validation, the company and yourselves in the marketplace. It also secures a ton of cash to fund our future goals, our growth. And last but not least, it's a liquidity event that can make all the employees financially secure. The rigor, the demands of being a public company is also a forcing function that ensures that this company operates in a professional manner and has strong systems in place to support both growth and financial stability. And that is why it is the next punch hole on my punch list. And fueled by being profitable in 2024, together we will punch this hole. I have one parting thing. I know a lot of you are young. You're still thinking about where your life needs to go. You worry about some things. Let me tell you something. I say this all the time. You've probably heard it from me. You've probably seen a pitch I've done on this. Replace the fear in your lives of the unknown with curiosity. Just as much as you fear that person or that thing or that unknown, whatever, just be curious about it. Learn about it, and you'll overcome the fear. Yoda 1 has been around for 12 years. We will be here for the next 12 and beyond. You have nothing to fear. As long as you're applying the principles that I've just discussed, you can be with us to punch the next hole in your card. And when in doubt, replace those fears or doubts with curiosity, right? So a lot of shit happened in the industry last year. A lot of people that we know got laid off or fired. Some companies disappeared. It is the reality. We're fine, and we're just going to be curious about how we're going to leverage AI and the future we have in front of us to be the best version of what we can be. So last but not least, just focus on curiosity. So can you imagine if you're in a company and you're not curious about anyone around you or what they're doing or their job? That is the worst possible scenario I can imagine for being in a company. Be curious about how the team, how yourself can be the best version of yourself. Be curious about what is possible in this AI era. Be curious about who you want to work with to achieve that. If they're not in the company, bring them in the company. If they're not in your department, get them in your department or get in their department, whatever. And last but not least, curiosity about how you can be the change that you want to see to make Yoda One the best place to work on the planet. We actually have a very serious vision about WFA. I'll tell you a quick story. All the people that are here in Beijing have been cramped in it, going to what you can consider an office. We have 3 rooms in a WeWork, and having to go to the same place every day, 9 to 5. I will tell you, sucks, and it sucks more because I know more now. Because we all know that, yeah, WFA has its challenges, but it's amazing. And the freedom it brings you is amazing. So let's all pull together, folks, and let's punch that profitability hole in 2024 and set Yoda One up for an IPO. Thank you very much. And thanks for your patience.